Jimmy
Wilson Jr.
And he's going to give us a perspective of what it is that he does. I'm so sorry, y'all. What it is that he does in the House of Representatives. Now, um, the reason why I wanted to interview Jimmy is because I think our youth coming along today need to know more about what goes on in the House of Representatives, how it is that they can become more involved in politics, and they get a better understanding of where that comes from when you hear it right from a representative. And I so appreciate him showing up here today on the show. Jimmy, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
me. I really appreciate you. I want to ask you first, how did you get started and what made you have this drive that you were determined to be a part of the House of Representatives? And I see that you grew up in Ypsilanti too, so that's the other part I want you to kind of chime in on.
Yeah, born and raised here in Ypsilanti. Started off on South Side right here, white townhouses here in Ypsilanti for about maybe 5 or 6 years, and then we moved into West Willow, where I spent the majority of my life, really. So I grew up in West Willow, went to Belleville schools. And then my education came by way of always wanting to work with my hands, and so I went to an airplane mechanic school.
Wow, that's fast.
Got my airplane mechanic license. I ended up not going into aviation. I went into renewable energy, and I was building wind turbines, the big windmills.
Wow.
300 feet in the air.
That's fabulous.
I was doing some traveling, doing that. Did that for a couple of years, but then when I wanted to kind of settle down a little bit, I came back home and worked at Ford Motor Company.
Okay.
And I did that for 11 years.
Okay.
But that's actually where I got my political juices flowing, because I got really involved with UAW.
Okay.
And if you know anything about UAW or labor unions, they get very involved in politics. Because I quickly learned if you're going to be a union activist, you're going to need to be a political activist.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of folks that want to take workers' rights away. And so I got really passionate about politics, and I said, you know what, I'm going to run for trustee at my local 898. So I won. I was on the executive board. But then I kind of wanted to take it to maybe the next level and kind of get more active in my community. And so Ypsilanti Township had an election 2016, and I ran for trustee. And I was successful, and I served 2 terms there. But then I kind of wanted to take it maybe the next level up. And there was a position available for state representative. Our former state rep had term limited, and so it was an open seat. And 6 people running, I was able to be successful and won state representative for the Ypsilanti area. And so it's all kind of full circle, being able to represent the area that I grew up in. And it's been very good since I've been a state rep for a year and a half now. We've gotten a lot of good things done, but that was kind of my journey on my life here in Ypsilanti, but then how I got involved in politics as well.
Okay. Now, you said the UAW. And I'm just going to give a little small synopsis, just a little brief something. My daughter was, and it wasn't in the UAW sense that the Ford Motor Company or anything like that, but another part of another field she worked in, where I encouraged her to talk to her union rep. And she was just very, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, but that's what they're there for, to help represent your right as an employee there. Just go and talk to them. And so it turned into her saying, well, I just don't feel like I'm getting advocated for because, of these friendships. I said, well, why don't you run? And so it was, she said, well, Mom, I don't think I want to do that. And she ended up being the rep for her office. So I thought that was fascinating that you said that, because I didn't know it was even that easy. And just at my mere suggestion that, if you want to, she said, well, Mom, I don't want to be fighting. I said, well, everybody's going to have to fight at some point. You just got to pick your battles. So, I mean,
you gave good advice.
Everybody might, think that because you fought for yourself and you were able to go inside of that meeting and represent yourself and your fellow workers in the position that you represented you all in, and you were able to get their back pay, just some things that were going on that really, I think, the UAW and the union does help in that process. But that's not for everybody. But to speak to that, Who encouraged you from the UAW position to push forward? Who was your mentor?
I would say there was two mentors within the UAW at my facility I was working at right here at the Ford Rossingville plant. Craig Michael Clay was one individual, and Ron Vanzo. Those two individuals always say, "Hey, there's a union meeting coming up. You should go."
Okay.
Hey, I seen you at this. Maybe you should go to this training. Hey, there's a conference coming up. You should go. So I started going, and it's all these different things. And that's where my juices started to flow.
Yeah. Were the fights that you won, and I won't say fight like physical, I mean like those battlefield fights, like for the rights of certain and particular things that you felt that you as a worker and you and your other workers deserved. Were those the things that gave you that drive, that juice, that every time you won, you said, "Ooh, if I did that, I could do that too." So was that any integral part of that?
Kind of. So as a trustee on my executive board at my local, so the executive board kind of handles the local finances and things of that nature, and then your in-plant committee handles all the grievances and the employee issues, and so I was more on the financial side of things.
Okay.
And so that was always my forte, is handling the finances. I handle the finances at my church now.
Okay.
I handle the finances at my union hall.
Because you're trusted.
Trusted. So then I was a trustee for the township, and so always handling finances and being trustworthy, like you said.
Okay.
And then state representative also handling a larger budget, obviously. So that's kind of always been my forte.
And so you just basically fight for the common folk that, on average, would know nothing about this kind of work, and they don't know anything regarding what happens behind the scenes.
Right.
They just know that they receive the results, and they're fabulous. Do you feel like you're sometimes looked at as Superman?
When I'm able to solve someone's issue, yes. And then when I can't, then I feel like I gotta keep fighting. Let me see what I can do. Okay. And I try to direct people to the right entity that will handle that, because sometimes whatever position I'm in may not be the position that handles your issue, but I should know who can, and so I try to direct people where they need to go, and normally that answers their issue.
Are you able to convey their stories in such a way that it, say, just for instance, when you're in the house and you guys are talking about things on the floor, and sometimes I look at some of the scenes where Madam, it should be her speaking time is over, but that thing that she's got to get out, will continue to kind of flow, and you all have to respect one another's time and the floor and the time that you give a particular item. Do you find that you have to shave a lot of things off, and it just won't convey basically the core of what you want to have come through so that you can get that vote?
I would say no, because once you understand how everything works behind the scenes, you understand that a lot of decisions are made before it gets to that point.
Okay.
And so handling that kind of business prior to you seeing a speech.
Okay.
A lot of times the speech is the finality of what's about to happen.
Okay.
And they want to make their point, but they also want to capture this video so that their constituents will know I was fighting hard for this issue. Okay. But the decision may already be kind of decided. They may not have taken the vote, but we already kind of know where things are going.
And so that's even if anybody's absent.
Correct.
Okay. And see, I like that. That's cool. What do you think? Well, me as a parent, and I know you said you started this journey coming from out of a career and then kind of spiraled into you becoming who you are today, and it wasn't basically what I can hear your parents forcing you into it, but myself as a parent, and I have a son, and so, and even my daughters, I just always felt like as the youth are coming along, they don't hear about a lot of politics and what happens in that political process. They kind of muddle through their day with just basically, I just want to do my homework and go home. Right. I just want to look at what's on the board. Let me write it down on my computer or whatever. And I just want to get it over with. But they don't really, when we talk about it to them as parents, understand the significance of why we say, okay, so you're almost 18. I want you to go vote. And we kind of not are not able to kind of get through to them as to why this is important. Um, and the only thing that I could think to do was to enroll them in it's a program through the Y that's called Youth in Government.
Oh yeah, I know about that.
And so I know my friends sometimes used to get on me about, why are you making them go do that? I said, because even if they don't grasp it right now, they can file it in the memory bank and recall it some other time. That's what our brains do. At some point, it'll strike a nerve. If something comes up, it will teach them how to be able to have a debate without having a fight. Be able to argue a point without putting up their fist. You know, it does a number. Just as me, as my own perspective, I think that's what it does for them. But not only that, that maybe eventually one day they might decide they want to be a House representative and represent their district wherever they are, or someone sees something in them. Like I said, trustee, you have the integrity that you're trusted with, you know, these things that help people live and thrive and survive. And this is the taxpayer dollar that's at work. So I just feel like that was always an important thing. How do you think, as a parent, say they don't have that in their area and they want the children to be more involved, what do you think would be the best way for them to get their interest up?
I would say two ways. One may not be as political, but there's a lot of great nonprofits in the area that are doing great work. And just getting more involved in the community will start to get you involved. Politics will always kind of trickle into anything we do in life somehow. And so being involved in some of these good nonprofits in the area, I think, is one way. The other way is actually reaching out to your elected officials and finding out who are they, what do you do, and start to ask questions and possibly even ask to, can I help you with something? Maybe intern with you. And that could be another way to spark some interest in the young people to get more involved.
Now that you're there in Lansing, do you ever see any school buses pull up and kids coming, yay, and they're all over the place, and you get kind of like that flashback as to when you were a youth, like, let me see what I could do. Do you ever have any moments that you reach out and invite?
There's a lot of, I think in third grade or fourth grade, a lot of the third, fourth graders, they come up to Lansing. And so I've seen some of our children here in YPSILANTI up there, and then but all across the state. They're coming up there. They're normally excited because it's a big building. You know, it looks like the castle or something to them, and they meet a lot of us legislators, and so it's exciting for them. So I can see the interest of something. They may not know what that is yet or how to harness it, but they are interested in what is this big thing, this big place, all this activity that's moving around, what's going on. And we try to convey that to them a little bit. We got to keep kind of reassuring or reinforce what we're talking about over time.
Now, has it ever been? I know when I sent my son the first time, he was like, "So can I just stay home next time?" And then the next time that was open and I signed him up for it again, he was like, "Oh, I like that. Can I go back again?" I was surprised, and I got a few pictures from some of the youth organizers and coordinators that led that. And he's sitting in one of the chairs. Might have been yours.
I was gonna say, youth in government, they actually get to go on the house floor and sit in our chairs
and
do
see,
all the things.
and I love that because it seemed like it just made him feel. And he had a suit on, everything, and I'm like.
And they always write a little letter to whoever seat they're sitting in.
Really? See, you didn't tell me that.
I always keep my little letters that somebody wrote too.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find out who he wrote. And I still have it. I have his youth in government book actually. And what he said he learned was how they would write their bills, because he wrote his before he left. As a matter of fact, the last one before COVID was asking that funds be put aside for all children to have computers, not just in the school, but permanently registered to them that they could take with them, so that when they graduate from high school, they still have something, if they want to go to college or even if they just want to have a computer, but registered to them, that's kept up, that the update for the programs, the protection of like maybe McAfee and Norton, so that you don't have things going on with people that are older, attacking them, safety precautions, and a number of other things that he asked for. But he said that his bill did not get read. So, what do you suggest the next time? And I know kids, you might be watching this, maybe, or maybe your parents are going to sit you down and make you watch it. What do you suggest? How should they advocate for themselves and speak up and say, "Hey, I really feel like this is important, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but this will speak to our future and a future investment in us, and how we're going to grow." How do you propose they introduce that without dog on the floor?
I would say finding other individuals, other people who have the same belief as you. So asking your friends, hey, do you believe in this thing? Okay, let's go together and talk to somebody else. And you start building momentum, getting more people and more people. So now when it comes time to actually talk to the folks that are making the decisions, it's not just you by yourself. You got 10 people behind you. And that has a bigger force on the decision makers than you might think. One person, we should always take every individual seriously, but when we see 10, 15, 20 of y'all, we definitely gonna be listening, and we're gonna take it even that much more serious. Like, oh, this many people believe in this thing. Okay, well, let me see how we can make it happen. So I would say that would be building your coalition of people who believe the same thing as you.
Do you think they would benefit from coming with statistics or research on their own part to help show that this is why I think this would be beneficial, and that would be taken seriously, or a little more seriously? And then sometimes I hear, even in politics, they say, "Oh, it's about the funding." Can that sometimes be where the research shows that we need to kind of stop looking at the money aspect and look at how this most important thing would be more beneficial to the overall good of everyone, as opposed to saying, "Oh, it's just about that dollar"? So, we're gonna have to scrap that from now.
Right. I would say the more homework you can do on your issue, the better. If you can present some facts and say, look, these other states are doing this thing that we aren't doing, and look at how it impacted them. Yeah, you may have to spend a little bit more up front, but you won't have to spend all this over time. And you can come with these stats, like you said. The more homework you can do up front, that's going to help your case a lot better.
And yeah, the only reason I say that is because my mother used to have this saying when we were little and wanted some shoes. She'd say, "Well, if you buy the cheapest pair of shoes, you're gonna have to buy them twice." I'm like, but those are cute. But it was just about how long and the quality of that shoe that it would last. So that makes a lot of sense to me. If they want to reach you, how would they do that?
They can email me, Jimmy Wilson at house.mi.gov. You can call my office, which I don't know that number off the top of my head, 517-373-8931, I believe is the phone number at my office. But I'm also on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok also, Jimmy Wilson Jr. 1 at all those social media sites. And I've always been pretty responsive, so don't worry that I'm got this title and you can't reach out to me. No, feel free to reach out to me anytime, and I will get back with you.
So now, I see you guys had a big win with the funding that came to the district. How do you feel about that? You feel like a champ? You gonna put up a muscle?
Put up a muscle. It was a big victory for the YPSILANTI community schools. For the last 10 years, they've been having this debt hanging over them. Every year before they even started teaching kids, they had to spend $2 million on debt and off their operational costs. And so we were able to take care of this debt. So now they don't have to worry about that. They can actually put that money into the classrooms, paying the teachers better, any initiatives they may have wanted to do and they couldn't. Now they can have all these ideas, they can implement them. We already know that funding with different school districts is not the best equitably. Some districts are getting a little more than others. And to even the playing field, I think this really helped our school district here. And so it was a big victory. It was a whole lot of people, not just myself, A lot of people making calls. Some people came up to Lansing advocating, emails, everything. And so even some of my predecessors were fighting for this. So it was when I came in, we just happened to have full control within our political party, and we were able to finally get it done and get it over the finish line. So
I used to read a lot and try to see where they say the Michigan lottery dollars that are supposed to go to schools, are they really going there? So now, did you guys like check into that and say, well, we know we do head counts every session for school to make sure if from the federal funding area they get those dollars for each student, because they do of course, the lunch and then the things that the children need to learn with, aside from let's say not the teacher salary or the operational cost of the building, but just that. Did you all look into that and say we need to check and see whether or not we're getting the funds that the lottery's collecting? Because there have been some very huge jackpots, I want to say, and one I think reached $1 billion, and I know the states and certain ones share, and but then there, I believe it's the Michigan Lotto. That's just the Michigan Lotto.
Right.
Has it been any help from that area that might have kind of helped the Ypsilanti Public School District offset some of that?
I would say that the lottery wasn't the piece that really helped the school district. Us new legislators, when we came in, that was probably one of the first things we thought of was, where's this lottery money going? But they were able to show the chart of where all the dollars are going. And so they are allocated properly, but we needed to find some extra dollars. And so there was a lot of federal dollars that came through from the American Rescue Plan, from the infrastructure plan that was signed, and some other big legislation that's been signed in the last few years.
Right.
So the Michigan legislature had a lot of dollars for the feds that we had access to. And this is where we were able to finally put a lot of extra money into some different areas, some community centers, our school districts, healthcare related. And so we were able to do a lot of things with these federal dollars that came in. So, and that goes back to, there's so many different elected officials, different levels of government. And so while I'm here for the state of Michigan, we also have a congressperson here that we need to make sure we're seeing how they're making decisions on the federal level, because those dollars came from the federal level.
Exactly.
And so we have to thank those officials that advocated for those dollars. And so there's different levels to this, and understanding how that works is very important.
So now, I know you all have different timelines. Do you all decide at some point, hey, let's get with our congressperson and let's just make a decision that we're all going to meet at a certain time so we can all be on the same page, all be on board with whatever the next agenda will be that you have to go out and fight for and do it? And before I ask you that, let me ask you this. Do you all come out into your different communities, collect the information you need from what you need to hear from the citizens, what they're looking for, and then go and get with one another and say, okay, this from my district is what they're looking for, or this is what they're looking for over here. So collectively, we all almost have the same thing in mind. Let's attack this one thing. Now let's get with the congressperson so we can see if we can get them to talk to and speak to where the next set of federal dollars will come from, and so that everything is divided equitably, so that we all get a fair share of what we need. Does that happen between all of you, or do you all have the time?
We do have the time, and I think that's very important to make the time too, even if we didn't, because that's very important to coordinate instead of working in your own silo by yourself. It kind of goes back what I just told our young people, is you got to have a collective body. It works the same for us as elected officials. We need other electeds to have the same idea, or at least convince them to be on the same page, because now we have more force behind us. And so we definitely try to get together and just come up with ideas and share ideas and see what do you think about this and that. So, but it's also incumbent upon us as electeds to make sure that we are reaching out and that we're getting into the community, finding out what is the issues. I can just go up there myself in Lansing and come up with my own things, but these people elected me.
Mhm.
I need to find out what do they want me up there fighting for.
Okay.
And so I have a coffee hour that I do once a month.
Okay. So can you tell us when your coffee hours
Yeah,
are?
so my next one will be fourth Saturday of September, and I believe it'll be at the YPSI Senior Center at 10 a.m. And so I try to do some once a month, a different location here in YPSILANTI, whether it's the library, the senior center, or maybe the city hall or township hall. And first half of it, I'm just telling you kind of what have I been working on. Here's some things going on in Lansing. And then the second half is Q&A. You ask me any questions you got, concerns, and I'll try to best answer them. If I can, let's do some follow-up afterwards, and let's dig a little deeper into it. So that's something I do to make sure I'm every month. This is what I'm working on, and what do y'all care about? What do y'all want me to be doing? So, yeah.
So do you find it hard to, when you do collect the information that you need from your citizens, that it's hard for people to listen? Or do you say, look, point blank, this is what I'm representing, and so I need you all to hear me, and you have to put your foot down?
Not normally. Normally, I'm on the same page and the wavelength of my constituents that sent me. Number one, I think that comes from me being from the community, kind of having an understanding already.
Right.
But two, I listened while I was campaigning, and when I was asking people to vote for me, I was also asking them, what do you care about, and what should I be fighting for? And so, keeping that always in the back of my head that the voters hired me. The voters can fire me if I'm not doing the job. And so I'm always trying to make sure that I'm listening to what they want.
And you mean firing in the sense of when it's time of voting?
Yes, correct. Right. Next election, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, they can elect somebody else. And so I always think about, let me make sure I'm always doing what they sent me to do.
Okay. So all they have to do for absentee ballots is get to the clerk's office and ask for one if they can't get out. And then that goes for vacations or anything else. Is that correct?
They can call up to the clerk's office. They can also go online to the Secretary of State's website, and there's an easy walkthrough of requesting an absentee ballot. So it's very accessible now. But now we also have 9 days early voting, and so you can go to the polls. Not even on election day, you can go 9 days early, right to certain polling locations and vote right on the spot.
So I know they did have one in my area in the library, and it surprised me because I didn't expect it there that day that I went. I was going for a book, but I said I might as well vote while I'm here.
Yeah.
And so youth, you also can get a voter's registration application from the Department of Human Services applications, and you can also go to the website at Secretary of State, as Representative did say, and order yourself an application. I implore you to do so. Are there any seats or anything coming up that you guys are trying to make sure the Democratic Party and areas stay and keep a hold of, that everybody should be aware of, like get out there and vote, if that's what you want to see happen?
Well, the biggest one that everyone's very well aware of is the president, obviously trying to make sure, because it goes back to where I just said we got all these federal dollars. We got to think about where these federal dollars come. This president signed into law a lot of these dollars that came to our districts. And I think some people get caught up in personalities a lot and age, and they forget about what actually did this person do. And a lot of dollars flowed into our district. And so we got to keep that in mind. So keeping some of our folks at the top of the ballot in place is going to be crucial.
I was thinking the same thing just back here not too long ago. Parents, if you are working, there are polls that stay open till 8 o'clock. There are polls that open at 7 a.m. So either before work or after work or on your lunch break. And if your children are turning 18 years old, get them an app, show them the way, take them with you. Hey, before they turn 18, you can take them with you. I mean, they can't vote, but you can show them what you're doing. And usually children are sponges, and they will absorb what it is that they're taking in from you.
And if I can, one last thing. We just passed a law where 16 and 17-year-olds, they can't vote, but they can pre-register to vote now.
Thank you.
And so they can already be on the rolls. As soon as they turn 18, they can start voting right away. And so they can actually pre-register to vote, 16 and 17-year-olds now.
Did you hear that? I knew I interviewed Jimmy Wilson, State Representative, District 32. Hey, you guys, thank you for tuning in. And